The first sign of trouble was not the calendar invite. It was the smell. Not perfume, not cologne, not the usual boardroom blend of coffee and ego. It was that hot, electric scent that comes from a server room right before something expensive becomes smoke. I caught it in the hallway outside the executive suite, faint but unmistakable, like a warning flare only old engineers can read. I should have turned around. I should have pretended I did not notice. But I have never been good at pretending. That is how you end up with outages and regrets. Inside the conference room, the new CEO, Rachel Sterling, sat at the head of the table like she was judging a talent show. 32 years old, third generation money, and the kind of smile that says she has never been told no by anything that can blink. Next to her sat Calvin Pierce, the interim COO, who was sweating through his dress shirt while trying to look like a man who still had options. The board members stared at their laptops, a synchronized display of cowardice. Rachel tapped her nails on the table. Maya Lopez, she said, like she was reading a name tag at a party she did not want to attend. We reviewed operational redundancy and modernization goals. Translation: they wanted to cut costs and call it strategy. Rachel leaned forward. Your role as principal systems custodian is outdated. We are migrating everything to Nimbus Vault. We do not need legacy babysitting anymore. Legacy babysitting. That was cute. That was also inaccurate. I had been keeping this company alive since before Rachel learned how to spell synergy. I designed the transaction mesh, the encryption gateways, the failover loops, the boring parts that make money move without people screaming. They called it infrastructure. I called it the heart. Calvin cleared his throat. Maya, this is not personal. It is evolution. Evolution is what you call it when you want to feel noble while pushing someone off a cliff. Rachel slid an envelope across the table. It stopped an inch from my hand, like she was afraid competence might be contagious. I did not reach for it. I just looked at her. So I am obsolete. Rachel smiled wider. Not obsolete, just unnecessary. We want fresh thinking. Fresh thinking is what people demand when they have no idea how systems work. Fresh thinking is also what breaks production on a Tuesday. I stood up slowly. The chair squeaked, a tiny protest. Okay, I said. Rachel blinked. She expected tears. She expected bargaining. She expected me to beg for my badge like it was oxygen. Instead, I placed my access card on the table. It made a soft plastic click. A quiet sound, like a key turning in a lock. Then I checked my watch. Rachel tilted her head. What are you doing? Counting, I said. Calvin frowned. Counting what? I met his eyes. You have 9 minutes before the handshake timer expires. Rachel laughed, a bright sound with no substance. This is not a movie. We have passwords. You have dashboards, I corrected. You do not have the lease on the engine. The air conditioner hummed louder, like it was anxious too. Rachel sat back. Explain. No, I said. Read your contracts. I walked out with my purse, calm as a librarian. In the hallway, my phone buzzed with the first alert. Heat spike, node cluster 3, coolant stress. I did not smile yet. The fun part was still warming up. I drove to a diner called Copper Moon, the kind of place where coffee is honest, and nobody asks you for a quarterly roadmap. I chose a booth with a view of the parking lot, set my phone face up, and ordered iced tea. At 0 hours 10 minutes, the first timer hit 0. Nothing exploded. Real failures rarely do. They suffocate. Quietly. Like a pillow over a face you never thought would betray you. At 00932, an alert popped up on my screen. Gateway sync denied. At 0 hours, 9 minutes, 1 second. Auth token invalid. At 0 hours, 8 minutes, 44 seconds. Transaction queue backing up. At 0 hours, 8 minutes, 10 seconds. Heat rise detected. Cooling loop under load. The company, Brightline Ledger, processed payments for hospitals, distributors, and grocery chains. Their servers were not magical. They were metal, heat, and math. And metal does not care about titles. My phone lit up with a call. Unknown number. I let it ring. Then a second call. Then a third. I sipped my tea. A message came through from a work chat I still had access to because their so-called cloud experts had not revoked my credentials. I had built the identity system. I hid a backdoor so deep it could have its own zip code. Ops chat. System alert. Gateway timeout. Ops chat. Anyone know why node routing is failing? Ops chat. Please tell me this is scheduled maintenance. Then a new message appeared. Rachel Sterling. Everyone stop panicking. Maya sabotaged something on her way out. It will be fixed in 5 minutes. I laughed out loud, and the waiter looked at me like I was unwell. Sabotage. Sure. She was already building a scapegoat before she built a solution. I took a screenshot. Evidence is best collected while people are still lying confidently. At 0 hours 5 minutes 11 seconds, the first real casualty arrived. Client support. Hospital network is failing to process disbursements. Client support. Grocery chain payment rails are down in 2 regions. Sales. We are bleeding accounts. Someone fix this now. And there it was, the message I knew would come, because desperation makes honest people. Dev lead Evan. Does anyone have Maya's number? She is the only one who knows the handshake certs. My phone buzzed again, this time with a name. Calvin Pierce. I answered, because sometimes you answer not to help, but to watch the panic take shape. Maya, Calvin said, voice already frayed. There has been a misunderstanding. Rachel did not mean it like that. I heard every syllable, I said. We need the master token. The cluster is overheating. The queue is backing up. The servers are melting down. I stirred my iced tea slowly. You fired the person you called unnecessary, so yes, you are having a systems event. Just send the credentials, he pleaded. We will reinstate you. Title, salary, whatever you want. Do you know where the hardware sits? I asked. A pause. In the cloud. No, I said, gentle as a scalpel. It sits in a collocation vault on the east side. Rack D17. The lease is under my holding company, Sable Harbor Systems. Silence. You are joking, Calvin whispered. I do not joke about thermals, I said. Your coolant loop is stressing. If you keep hammering the cluster, you will warp boards. Then you will not have a company. You will have a museum exhibit called Mistakes. Calvin swallowed audibly. Rachel does not know. She is about to, I said. Please, he said. We are watching dashboards go red. I leaned back. Read Clause 12, the one you all signed when you wanted to keep debt off the books. Then I hung up. At 00200, my phone lit again. But this time it was not Calvin. It was a call from the founder. Walter Sterling had built Brightline Ledger in a cramped warehouse with a folding table and a stubborn belief that payments should not fail just because someone sneezed. He was semi-retired now, living on a lake, telling people he missed the grind while never actually missing it. When he called, I answered. Not because I owed him, but because I wanted him to hear the truth before his daughter rewrote it. Maya, Walter said, voice low and shaky. What is going on? Rachel says you planted a virus. A virus, I repeated, like tasting the word. No, Walter. Your company just terminated its own infrastructure lease. I do not understand. You signed a master service agreement years ago, I said. You wanted the servers off the company books. I formed Sable Harbor Systems and bought the hardware. Brightline leased it back. The lease stayed active as long as I remained employed as systems custodian. Walter went quiet. I could almost hear him trying to remember a document he never read because he trusted me to handle the boring parts. You fired her? He said, and his tone sharpened. Rachel did, I replied. She called me outdated, unnecessary. A soft curse from Walter. Then a muffled voice in the background, high and furious. Rachel. Walter returned to the line. Maya, turn it back on, please. Clients are calling me directly. The board is losing its mind. Rachel is in over her head. It is not about pride, I said. It is about liability. You fired me. The lease ended. If I restore service without a contract, I become responsible for a system I am not authorized to operate. Walter exhaled. What do you want? I paused. Revenge is best served cold, but it still requires a recipe. I want you to understand what she did, I said. She fired the person holding the keys, then blamed the lock for being locked. Walter sounded older suddenly. I will fix this. I will bring you back. Name your terms. Too late for employment, I said. But not too late for a contract. The line went silent again, and then Rachel grabbed the phone. I could tell because her anger arrived before her voice did. Maya, Rachel snapped. You are holding my company hostage. Our company, I corrected. You are obsolete and petty, she hissed. You cannot do this. I can, I said. I did. That is why your dashboards are screaming. You will be sued, she said. I will be bored, I replied. Also, your servers are overheating. If you keep pretending you can brute force your way through encryption, you will cook the boards. You are enjoying this, she accused. I leaned back in the diner booth. I am enjoying the clarity. Rachel inhaled sharply. Fine. Come back. Fix it. We will announce you as special advisor. We will give you a consultant fee. I let the silence stretch just long enough to feel her discomfort. No, I said. No? Her voice cracked. Then what? I want a new agreement, I said. Sable Harbor Systems will provide service under a new contract at emergency rates. There will be strict operational control, no surprise layoffs of critical staff, and you will apologize publicly for calling me unnecessary. Rachel laughed, bitter. Never. Then enjoy the meltdown, I said. Walter cut in, voice like thunder. Rachel, stop. You will apologize. Rachel sputtered. Dad, this is insane. Walter sounded like he had been punched by reality. You fired the engine and expected the car to drive. Apologize. I heard Rachel swallow. Her pride was choking her. Fine, she muttered. I am sorry. Now fix it. I smiled, finally. Not because she apologized, but because she learned the first lesson of infrastructure. It does not care who is in charge. I will send terms, I said. Then I ended the call. Outside the diner, my phone flashed another alert. Coolant threshold critical, automatic throttle engaged. They were minutes away from permanent damage, which meant my price was about to rise. The emergency meeting was held on a video call called the Borealis Bridge, a name Rachel had chosen because she thought poetic branding could fix physics. Half the board looked like they had not blinked in hours. Calvin looked pale. Walter looked furious in that quiet way that makes rich men suddenly dangerous. Rachel joined last, hair perfect, eyes wild. She tried to look authoritative, but it came out like a toddler wearing a helmet. Maya, she said clipped. We are here. State your demands. I held up a digital document on screen. This is the Sable Harbor Emergency Operations Agreement. It is not negotiable. It is survival. Walter nodded. Proceed. Rachel bristled. We can negotiate. The coolant does not negotiate, I said. Your cluster is throttling. You have 7 minutes before thermal shutdown begins. After that, you will be down for days, and your clients will not forgive you. Calvin whispered. She is right. The temps are climbing. Rachel glared at him like betrayal was his hobby. I continued. Term 1. Sable Harbor Systems becomes the exclusive infrastructure operator for 12 months. Term 2. Emergency rate is triple my previous compensation, paid daily during the crisis. Term 3. I get operational veto on any changes affecting uptime. Term 4. You reinstate the backup program and fund it for 2 years. Rachel scoffed. Triple? You are greedy. I smiled. You said I was unnecessary. If I am unnecessary, you can refuse and watch the servers die. Silence. Walter leaned forward. Rachel, sign it. Rachel clenched her jaw. Fine. Term 5, I said. You apologize on record, not to me privately, to the staff. You called me outdated. You called my work legacy babysitting. You will correct that. Rachel stammered. That is humiliating. Yes, I said. That is the point. Calvin, desperate to be useful, said, Rachel, we cannot pay payroll if this stays down. I saw the moment she realized she had no leverage. She was not negotiating with me. She was negotiating with gravity. Rachel muttered, I apologize. Walter snapped. Louder. Rachel swallowed. I apologize to Maya Lopez and to the team. I was wrong. Her work is necessary. I nodded. Good. Now sign. The digital signatures landed one by one like drops of rain before a storm. When Rachel signed, her hand shook, which was satisfying in a petty way I did not bother to hide. Now, I said, step away from the dashboards. Your team is making it worse. Calvin asked, What do you need? Two things, I replied. Silence and compliance. I opened my terminal and initiated the handshake restoration. I did not turn the servers off earlier. I had simply revoked the certificate that let Brightline talk to hardware it did not own. Now I issued a new certificate, time-bound, signed by Sable Harbor. The logs shifted. Queue release, auth accepted, gateway sync restored. Calvin exhaled like he had been holding his breath since childhood. Rachel leaned forward. It is working. It is breathing, I corrected. Do not stab it again. Then I slid one more file into the call chat. A spreadsheet. What is that? Rachel asked. Audit notes, I said. A list of every reckless decision made under your leadership in the last 90 days, including the canceled backups, the untested cloud migration, and the sudden vendor swap that almost created a security breach. Walter stared at it, then at her. Rachel went still. This was not just about servers melting down anymore. This was about accountability, and I had receipts. By morning, Brightline Ledger was stable, but the building was not. Walter called an all-hands meeting at noon. Rachel stood beside him on stage, smiling the way people smile at funerals, trying to look composed while their plans rot beneath them. I stood off to the side, not as an assistant, not as a relic, not as legacy baggage. I stood as the person who kept the lights on. Walter spoke first. We had a critical infrastructure incident. We are lucky it did not become permanent. Lucky, sure. Like a parachute opening is luck and not engineering. He turned toward Rachel. Rachel will address the team. Rachel stepped up, microphone shaking slightly in her hand. She stared at the crowd of engineers, support staff, sales reps, the people she had dismissed as replaceable. My comments about Maya Lopez were wrong, she said, voice stiff. Her work is essential. I apologize. A murmur moved through the room, equal parts satisfaction and disbelief. People love apologies that are forced by reality. Then Walter spoke again. Effective immediately, we are restructuring leadership. Rachel will remain CEO, but operational control of infrastructure is under Sable Harbor Systems for 12 months. Additionally, an independent review will assess leadership decisions that contributed to this incident. Rachel blinked at him. She had not expected that last part. She expected to survive without consequence, because that is what privilege trains you to expect. After the meeting, Calvin found me near the elevators. He looked exhausted, but relieved. I thought you would let it burn, he admitted. I considered it, I said. Then I remembered the people who would suffer first. Not Rachel, not the board, the staff, the clients, the nurses trying to process payouts, and the warehouse teams trying to ship orders. Calvin nodded. So why punish her? I tilted my head. I am not punishing her. Physics is punishing her. I am just translating. Rachel approached like she was walking toward a dentist. Maya. I waited. She swallowed. Thank you for not letting it collapse. Do not thank me, I said. Learn. The system is not a prop in your personal rebrand. She flinched. Good. Flinching is the first step to humility. As she walked away, my phone buzzed with an email from a major client, Solara Freight. Subject line: We prefer the architect. They wanted to move their volume to Sable Harbor permanently if I ever left Brightline. I stared at the message, then looked out at the office floor where engineers were finally breathing again. Rachel had called me outdated, yet here I was, holding the keys, holding the contract, holding the future. That is the funny thing about infrastructure. Nobody throws you a parade when it works. They just assume you are unnecessary. Until it stops. And then the same people who shoved you aside come crawling back, begging, offering titles, money, dignity they should have given you from the start. Later that night, I went home, poured iced tea, and pinned the new contract in my safe beside the old master service agreement. 2 documents, 1 lesson. Power is not the chair at the head of the table. Power is the quiet valve nobody notices until it turns. And I have learned something else too. If someone calls you legacy baggage, let them. Just make sure you own the engine they are trying to drive. Then, when they beg you to come back, you can decide whether you want to be merciful or expensive.